Campbell. Now it's just going to have to be approved.
It has to come off. Am I going to have to?
Oh, y'all got a hand go.
Okay, I call this meeting to order. At this time, we'll stand for the invocation, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. Mr. Garber.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Father, we just come before you this evening and want to thank you that you are a God of peace and healing. Thank you for our wonderful city that we get to serve, and thank you for the staff and everybody that allows that to happen. We also want to, this evening, lift Lana up. She's, of course, not feeling well, and she's right at the end phases of her recuperation, and so we definitely want to seek your assistance and your hand in her situation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. First item is the Texas Chief of Police Association presentation to the Corinth Police Department recognizing the department's reaccredited status. Chief Gardner.
Mr. Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to introduce a couple of people to you. Captain Hunter, that you know from our police department, who did all of our work in putting this accreditation process in place for Corinth. And then we've also got from the State Chiefs of Police Board, Chief Doug Ryan from Highland Village to actually make the presentation to us.
Thank you.
Permission, we'll do that.
Mayor, Council, citizens, Chief Garner, there's just a little humble in how important this recognition is. And I just want you to understand across the state the significance. There's over 2,000 agencies represented by law enforcement in Texas for PD side, not SOs, sheriff departments. And right now there's only close to 200 that have accomplished the accreditation process. What that means is Texas police chiefs, retired police chiefs, lawyers have gotten behind this back in about 2007-ish, I believe, and put their heads together to really come up with the codified rules of engagement and our Bible, for all intents and purposes, to understand and help us through things that happen, unfortunately, across the rest of this country. So if an agency gets recognized, they put a lot of work behind it, and I'm not going to... Chief Garner, he gets to stand here and take the credit, but really it's the whole department and the community, the support from the council that says thank you very much for taking the time, the effort to support this, because it really elevates us to a higher level. And if you've been here, your agency doesn't get in trouble. It doesn't, and that's why, because they have a strict set of guidelines in that Bible to follow. More importantly, I want you to know that the Texas police chiefs, that board this year for legislative session, have lobbied various legislators to enact and push a bill across the state to force agencies across Texas all to become accredited. They necessarily don't have to choose the Texas police chiefs accreditation process. However, within the next few years across Texas, I'm very confident that all agencies across Texas will be accredited to work towards that common goal. So be very, very proud of your organization for this fourth time and all of the hard work and effort for all of them behind the scenes. And thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. I would like to have the council have a picture taken with the three gentlemen, too. So we get this on your Facebook. Again, you make us proud. Okay, the next proclamation we have is supporting Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month. And because we only have one person on the diocese here that really participates in motorcycle, I thought it would be appropriate for her to read the proclamation. So tonight, Councilwoman Henderson is going to read the proclamation on motorcycle safety.
Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month. Whereas today's society is finding more citizens involved in motorcycling on the roads of our country, and whereas motorcyclists are roughly unprotected and therefore more prone to injury or death in a crash than vehicle drivers, and whereas campaigns have helped inform riders and motorists alike on motorcycle safety issues to reduce motorcycle-related risk, injuries, and most of all, fatalities through a comprehensive approach to motorcycle safety. And whereas it is the responsibility of all who put themselves behind the wheel to become aware of motorcyclists, regarding them with the same respect as any other vehicle traveling the highways of this country. And it is the responsibility of riders and motorists alike to obey all traffic laws and safety rules. And whereas, urging all citizens of our community become aware of the inherent danger involved in operating a motorcycle, and for riders and motorists alike to give each other the mutual respect they deserve. Now, therefore, Bill Heidemann, Mayor of the City of Corinth, hereby proclaims the month of May as Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month in the city, and urges all residents to do their part to increase safety and awareness in our community. Signed this 20th day of April, 2023.
Thank you. And you want the council, please come down again. We'll get our picture taken, and we will present this to some recipients here tonight.
Oh, hey. Actually, we are Lake City's ABATE chapter, which is a chapter of Texas ABATE Confederation. We are actually not a motorcycle club. We are a motorcycle corporation that fights for legislative rights, for motorcycle, common sense. And so we really look forward to all our surrounding cities, because we are Lake City's ABATE, and we do have several of our members belong to the surrounding lake cities. So we'd like to make sure that our cities are making sure that the month of May that people do know that it is motorcycle safety and awareness, and that even your grass clippings, if you don't blow them out in the road, because the grass clippings are like ice when a motorcycle rides over them. So anything you can do to watch out for us, we watch out for you guys, so we hope that you watch out for us. And thank you again for giving us this proclamation.
Congratulations. Okay, we have citizens' comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Comments about any of the council agenda items are appreciated by the council and may be taken into consideration at this time or during that agenda item. Council is prohibited from acting on or discussing items brought before them at this time. We do have 2 people that would like to speak. First one is Erlene W. Jackson. Please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Erlene Wimberly Jackson. I live at 2107 Bowie Lane, Corinth, Texas. I have been a resident, will be 27 years on August of this year. And so I am continuing to speak on the fact that I really truly believe that the senior citizens of this city should be given the freeze on those city taxes. Those taxes are causing a hardship on a lot of people, and I don't think that a lot of people have taken that personal enough. You know, if you're not struggling and you're not having a problem, it's not an issue for you. But if you are struggling and you are having a problem, it's an issue. And when a 75-year-old woman, I've constantly mentioned her, comes up to me and say, Miss Jackson, I think I might be losing my home because the taxes are getting out of hand. I don't think I can be able to keep up with them. I don't think that's fair for a citizen to have to say that for the American dream of ownership of a home, and then the taxes of the state take away her home. I think that's appalling. And so I'm here today to say that I need you all to dig deep and think hard, because I see all of these things coming up. Some of these houses are coming in at $600,000 and $500,000. A neighbor of mine, her house, $485,000, I think she said, taxes $9,000. So if she's paying $9,000 and $485,000, then I know that people coming in at $500,000 and $600,000 are going to be paying $10,000, $12,000 or better. There's money coming in, and we need to make sure that citizens are taken care of. I expect for you all to dig deep. You dig deep on all the other issues. When it comes to the senior citizens, I heard someone say, oh, it's a significant number. It's not a significant number. The last time I checked, it's only under 4,000. That's not nowhere compared to the total populace of this city. So let's think about, what can we do for the citizens that really need support? They're not asking for a handout, nor am I. But at least there should be some consideration for those people that really need help, that really need the support. And it would help if the city showed they cared enough about those people to do something about it. I thank you, and I yield.
Thank you. David Rinaldi, please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Yes, it's David Rinaldi, 2017 Glen Manor Road. Tonight I want to discuss City Ordinance 22-01-20-01. I have a house in my neighborhood that I brought it to the attention of code enforcement. And the house, it's a rental house. The house hasn't been painted in 22 years, okay, and it's being rented right now. It's got mold in the soffit. If you don't know what a soffit is, it's right below the gutter. And mold on the side of the house. And it's got half grass on the front lawn. The sprinklers don't work. And it's got half screens on the front of the house. In other words, you got a sunscreen, a regular screen, sunscreen, regular screen. So it's black, white, like that. Well, that house was inspected by the code enforcement. And code enforcement said, Well, we told them you could put screens on there, so that's what they did. They put screens on it. But what they didn't look at is that one's black and one's white and one's black and one's white. And another thing, too, is that the sprinklers don't work. They said, well, we can't make them do the sprinkler system. I said, well, there's no grass in the front. Okay? Well, does that mean if he lives there for 4 years, the house 2 doors down from me, he's not going to have grass for 4 years? Is that what that means? That's what it's telling me. So the house was inspected and gave a CO. Okay. So I talked to Scott, and Scott and I, we disagreed, on a few things. And a disagreement that we got is that that they did all they could. Okay. But if you look on the ordinance that I've just put on your desk, on the second page that's highlighted, it says blight. Okay. I consider all that, what I just got done telling you, is blight. That's what I consider it is. Okay. Because I got to look at it, and this is a city ordinance that you people passed, and Bill, you signed. Okay. So I talked to John Webb, and John Webb kind of got me straightened on a few things. He says that we need to put this thing into a work session and discuss and stiffen this bill or this ordinance up so that it helps out the neighborhoods, because this is what it was designed for. It was designed for the neighborhood so that everybody doesn't have to live beside a house that's all messed up, looks like the Munsters house. And then I'm a retired guy at 75 and live on Social Security, and I take good care of my house. I cut the grass. Everything I got to do, and I got to live beside this thing.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you. Okay, consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted in one motion. Should the mayor or council member desire discussion of any item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. I'd entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Well, because we don't have a voting machine tonight, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. It's unanimous. Public hearing. Conduct a public hearing to consider testimony and act on a rezoning request by the applicant, Rockbrook Development, to amend the zoning ordinance and zoning map of the City of Corinth, each being a part of the Unified Development Code of the City of Corinth, from SF2 single-family residential to a planned development with a base zoning district of MF1 multifamily residential on approximately 9.007 acres, generally located on the west side of Park Ridge Drive between Meadowview Drive and FM 2181. Case number ZAPD 21-002, Quarry Multifamily. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Our Director of Development Services, John Webb, will present this zoning request to you tonight and answer any questions that you may have.
For some time. I know the applicant is also here with a very good presentation. So we're looking at a zoning change request on the west side of Park Ridge, north of 2181. Currently, the zoning is a single-family SF2. The applicant's desiring to create a planned development district with the base zoning of the MF1 to accommodate this, what I call a fairly low-density multifamily development consisting of townhouse-style and duplex-style units that would ultimately be in a condominium association. There'll be 68 of the duplex style and 22 attached townhouse style buildings for the total of the 90 units. The maximum density would be within the comp plan recommendation of 10 units per acre. Existing site conditions consist of the site has some vacant structures that will be removed with the development. There is a significant elevation change, at least or more, greater than 20 feet dropping off from Park Ridge as you go into the site. There is a pond on the site that the developer intends to amenitize and be part of the HOA open space. And as the screen says, some of the uses include the existing single-family neighborhood to the northwest, some vacant property owned by the school district to the south, a residential dwelling to the south, and, of course, Lake Dallas ISD facilities to the east. Again, the existing zoning is single-family 2. Our future land use plan recommends mixed residential with an overall residential density between 6 and 10 units per acre. And our master thoroughfare plan recommends a collector road bisecting the property, which the developer has accommodated for in his plan, that he will not only dedicate the right-of-way but construct the entire pavement width of this collector road to the end of his property that butts up against the Acme quarry plant. This is the concept plan that's associated with the site. It will be incorporated into the PD ordinance. It gives the layout of the units. As you see, some more of those townhome-style buildings will front onto Park Ridge. Everything will be rear parked, so you will not have any front-entry garages. So similar to what you have approved in the past of other developments of that Muse lot where your front door opens up into kind of a Muse green space area. The back area would be the alley, would be an oversized alley, provide for adequate fire protection to all the sites. And again, you see the large pond area that will be incorporated as an amenity into the site. There are other green spaces on the site, including the dog park. It will be built in 2 phases. The larger phase will be installed first, including the pond area, the second phase being the 30 units here. All the units will have garages, either a 1-car or 2-car garage. There are 19 on-street parking spaces. Staff has worked with the developer to ensure there's sufficient visitor parking within close proximity to the units. I think it's important to note that about 42% of this site, and again, as I said, it's about 9 acres, is going to be dedicated for usable open space in the pond area. So a significant amount of the land area is not being developed for units. It's being set aside for recreational and open space areas. There are some unique architectural standards that the developer is proposing, consisting of what's called more of a farmhouse style, consisting of brick and stone and also lat board. It's a unique design. I'll mention again with this has gone through the Planning Zoning Commission review as well. The developer did have very initially early on some outreach meetings with the owners. Just for your information, we have worked with this developer for over 18 months. He's gone through 9 plan reviews. I think that's a record in my career, 9 different revisions trying to satisfy either what the staff concerns were or what the Planning Zoning Commission concerns are. So this has been in the hopper for quite some time, but he did initiate the process by having neighborhood outreach meetings, and the letters of support from those neighbors are in your packet. The property does comply with the comprehensive plan. It capitalizes on the natural assets of the property, the drainage features, and, of course, the density area. As of this time, we have additional 4 letters of support, 2 letters of opposition, and 1 email seeking clarification. These are the properties within the 200 feet. And then we have additional emails, 39 emails and letters in opposition that we've received from properties that are outside of the 200-foot perimeter. And as you know today, I sent you, many of those emails came in the last couple of days. We packaged them, and just for the record, you have copies of all those emails. One thing of interest is the Planning Zoning Commission held a couple of workshops with the applicant back in 2022. At their February 27th meeting, the Planning Zoning Commission formally held a public hearing and recommended approval to this as submitted. Staff also recommends approval. Also want to note there's been some issues in a lot of the emails about the traffic and the traffic impact. The applicant actually, his initial traffic impact study, I believe, was done for about 127 units. In that traffic impact study, it noted that the peak hour for the AM of those would be the trips leaving the site, probably going down Park Ridge to 21, and same thing the evening of coming back up Park Ridge is about 46 units, 46 vehicles per hour. Now, again, that was based on a higher number of units. So with the unit reduction, we're looking about a car every 2 minutes would be the impact on the peak hour. So about every 2 minutes, there would be a car coming out of the site going down Park Ridge to 2181. So I just wanted to have that part of the record because I do know that traffic has been a consideration on that. So with that, Mayor and Council, I'll be glad to entertain any questions. Michelle did all the legwork on the case. She's here to answer questions. I do know the applicant's here, and has a presentation from that. Then after that, Mayor will have the public hearing.
Are there any questions from council?
I do. What month was the study done on the cars? Because if it's during the summer, it's going to be significantly different than if it's during school year.
I can look it up. I've got it in my packet. Jason might be able to give you that information.
I think that's important because it's if school's in or out, it's going to make a huge difference.
I have a question. Do you, off the top of your head, know how many units would potentially be built on that property if it was a normal SF4, SF5?
It's going to be tough because of the grading. Until I saw a grading infrastructure plan, and I think that's one of the problems, is just because of the topography on a 9-acre site, you typically will lose at least 30% of the land for a right-of-way area, so then you're down to 6 acres. And so depending on the grades and topography, you then probably are looking at maybe 12 houses at best by the time you get all the grading and the infrastructure in. And also, if you lose the pond, and the pond takes out a couple of acres out of that as well. So
Okay.
I'm not an engineer, but I've looked at that, and getting 10 houses I think would be the best you could do on that.
Is there only, all I saw was one ingress and egress. Is that correct?
There should be a secondary point of access. Yeah, see, there's a secondary point of access. There's the main access, will be Quarry Drive, and then there's a secondary point of access further down Park Ridge.
The main one, though, is directly across the street from the main drive to student parking.
Yes.
And I can see that could potentially be a problem when schools... I live in this area. So if you're on Park Ridge around in the mornings for a couple hours in the morning or around release time, if you're on Park Ridge heading south to Swisher, you will sit through 3 or 4 cycles of that light. You cannot get through that light. And those kids coming out of the parking lot, and I know that's just for short periods of time, but that is an issue. I mean, it's significant now.
So we purposely try to line up these driveways so there's not a conflict in the left turn, so there's not people queuing up in the bay of a left turn lane. Understand that we've received also the similar issues about the stacking on Park Ridge. We've reached out to the Highway Department. As you know, with any instance, they're going to give probably preferential green time to a 6-lane thoroughfare versus a minor arterial. But we've reached out to see if there's something we can do, because what's happening is they're putting in a minimum green time on 2181, which then is extra red time on Park Ridge.
With no protected turn.
Correct. And so we've reached out to see, can they go back and re-look at basically with that peak hour, can we add extra green time? I was there 9 o'clock this morning, and again, it wasn't peak, and 8 cars got through, but I agree that during peak hour, it's not going to get through. So we've asked them to look at it. They'll have to, it's a balancing act, because then the more green time you add to Park Ridge, that's going to be more stacking on 2181. But I think they might be able to find a better balance. But again, we'll have to wait and see what their feedback is.
When would we get that feedback?
I don't know.
It's TxDOT, right?
Any other questions?
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The applicant's presentation. Appreciate it.
Please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jason Rose. I reside at 2120 Cosmos Way, Argyle, Denton County. I want to hand out, while I'm going, some of my conceptual renderings on a...
Thank you. Here, Sam. Here.
Just wanted to introduce myself as a developer. I'm a licensed architect, been developing in the DFW Metroplex for about 25 years. And I've specialized in doing niche product that kind of is in between the mass merchant builders that target the big single-family homes with looking for the nuclear family with 2 kids, and between the apartments and the homes. So I find that niche where the singles, the transitional people that are buying their first home, the people that are empty nesters and are downsizing or have lost a spouse. Because that market I've always found to kind of be underserved. So that's been my bread and butter. I've probably done 2,000 homes in probably 3 dozen communities all across the Metroplex in at least 30 different towns and cities. And that has been my mission, and it's to do unique product with some architectural detailing that's different. I'm able to do that because I'm not a big builder. So I'm my own architect, my own developer, my own builder. So I don't have to go hand my plans to somebody and they say, well, we can't build that. That's too difficult to build. I get to control the process from start to finish. And I think the best thing to show you kind of who I am is some of my recent projects. This project is right in downtown McKinney. In fact, I'm finishing the last 2 of 20 units. It's in the historical area. It's not historical. I did this architecture on my own accord. It wasn't required. It wasn't a condition of approval of this project. This is what I went out and did because my vision in downtown McKinney was this historical area, and it was really fun for me as an architect to do some real unique stuff. If you look, for instance, at that lower picture, that twisting chimney, I actually got up on the scaffolding and helped the bricker brick that because that's just what it took. It's real hard to draw that and hand it to a guy and say, here, go build that. So for me, it's a passion. What I do is truly something I really enjoy, and this was a very fun project for me. These are actually duplexes. You can't see it, but they're actually connected. If you look at the lower picture in the back, they're attached as in a duplex format. This is a project I'm currently doing in Frisco. I took an HOA common area in Christie Ranch. The HOA in 08 and 09, the developer had committed to some amenities and had went bankrupt and had sold all the lots and disappeared. So they had this big common area. And I'm the guy that went in and said, okay, I would develop some lots and I will help you guys build your amenity. And in conjunction with working with the city, with an HOA, we're bringing this project to fruition. We are really close to having the landscape done. Real challenging project that's currently under development. This is a project in Louisville. I'm currently working on, there's 27 of these units, and these are, again, very kind of modern, not quite your big single-family residence. This is kind of similar in style to what my planning intent is here, which I'll go through. There's a lot of green space between these units. The units are configured in tighter modules, so there's a lot of park area. There's walkways along the creek. Between the front of the residences, there's like 50 or 60 feet of just green space. Developments that you don't commonly see. You take a traditional single-family house, neighborhood, take the neighborhood to the north of my project currently, and you stamp your lot sizes and everything, and everybody has their yard, but what you lose in that mix typically is the amenity and the neighborhood sense of community. And that's one of the key points of my development that I'll get to in a minute. But this is a deal in downtown McKinney, kind of an urban development. This is a development in downtown Coppell. Very similar in architectural style as to what I'm proposing with this product. The bad news is I'm right next to a high school stadium and parking lot and lots of traffic and lots of noise. The good news is I'm right next to a high school with lots of young people. For me, my vision is to do something really creative because it fits there. Whereas you take something like this and you go out into the typical suburbia area where you get the more traditional houses, it might not fit so well. I believe that this site, something really colorful and with a lot of diversity, a lot of texture, a lot of movement, a lot of product diversity, is appropriate there. I think that it fits that area. And this was in downtown Coppell, and it had a historic flavor to it. It had a lot of housing mixes. It had townhomes. It has some apartments. It has single family. Had a lot of options. This is a more dense property in McKinney that I just recently developed. These were for sale. Now, that brings me to this site. This site is surrounded, of course, by Lake Dallas High School and the stadium on one side. Acme Quarry Mine, who I've been told is going to be there a minimum of 50 years, borders this property to both the west and the north. There's a 1-acre Acme site to the north, and they have, to my understanding, no intention of ever selling either. The 1 acre provides the secondary emergency access to the mine. And then I have the residential neighbor who everybody knows as the donkey lady to the south. If you've ever driven by there, she has a big, giant white donkey and lots of animals. So that's kind of her defining character. When I looked at this site, I went around to all my neighbors, including the school, including Acme, and I spoke with everybody, including Diane to the south, and told them what my intentions were, told them what I would like to do there. And at a much denser usage, I got support from everybody because they live there. Diane has lived there, I believe, 30-some years. She's aware of the traffic. She thought it was a very appropriate use for there. And that's what I do. I talk to my neighbors because these people are impacted by what I do. I want to be a good neighbor. I want to not go in and surprise them and they show up at this meeting and, hey, we've never discussed this. Because I'm cognizant of this footprint and the time that these people have been there, and I want to show them my idea. They don't have to agree with what I'm doing, but I always found it's good tactic to at least get face to face, explain to them what my ideas are, and I've gotten their support. For this overall community, this site is primarily accessed down Swisher Road and then up Park Ridge. So 99% of my traffic isn't going to ever go and impact the people in the neighborhood to the north. They've got several ways in and out. Yes, the high school creates a lot of traffic. It just does. This site, according to the traffic study, is not going to show any significant increase of that traffic. The benefit to the overall community is the additional people around the area and their path of travel is going to further support your businesses, your sales tax revenue. These are going to be people that eat locally. Trade area is a distance people are willing to travel when they go out and eat or they shop. That's shrinking over time as we get more businesses, but that's going to benefit some of these parcels along Swisher that are kind of undeveloped or some of the restaurants that are struggling. These type of uses around those corridors are going to increase the viability of those businesses and the future development of a lot of those parcels. Because the first thing a commercial property does is they draw a circle around their dry cleaner, around their restaurant, and they find out how many rooftops are within that vicinity, and that pretty much drives whether that business is going to be viable or not. So it's important to know that because, Corinth kind of, in a way, was skipped over commercially, and I know Corinth is trying to attract a lot of commercial development, and there's some projects coming in that I think are going to do that as Corinth matures and develops, and I think that's important for the city, for the tax revenue. The lady spoke about the property taxes. If a city relies primarily on property taxes for their funding, and they lose out on a lot of that commercial and sales tax, that can help the city's budget by bringing in that sales tax revenue. Cities love commercial development because of that additional revenue. So just something to think about that I think about that's important. Now my site. As he mentioned, the idea here is, again, in a traditional single-family neighborhood, you create your lots. The neighborhood to the north, they all have these nice yards, but there's no amenity in that neighborhood whatsoever for those people to congregate. The idea here is, as I shrink the footprint of my development, I'm able to increase public spaces. I have over 4 acres along the perimeter of this development that are dedicated to tree preservation, natural amenity preservation, not the footprint of my houses, but spaces where the people can go out and enjoy. This lake pond is beautiful. I put a picture on it. It's an exceptional looking space. So I've got pockets of trees I'm preserving all around this. My residents will walk out of their yard into public space. They'll talk to each other. They'll meet. If you've lived in a single-family neighborhood, it's with the backyards, it's rare that people go out and meet their neighbors anymore or get out and talk. In my neighborhoods that I'm doing like this, they're kind of forced to, because these spaces draw everybody together. 6 o'clock at night on something like this, everybody's going to be down at that pond enjoying the water, and they're going to be talking and they're going to be communicating. It's a unique way of living. It's a unique concept, and it really, really pulls people together. The city has invested a lot in a trail system, which is along that same lines. We got an 8-foot trail dedicated along Park Ridge. Along that trail, I've created little niches with benches and handicap rests. I really want to dress up that streetscape and make it inviting and pull people into this development. So that's the intent, and one of the reasons for the orientation of my units as they are. I'm creating public space and unique amenities that you just won't find anything like this in most neighborhoods. And that pond is so unique. These are the different, this was shown to designate originally everybody I went and talked to within my I couldn't go to everybody, obviously, in the whole neighborhood, so I go around to the people that I believe are most affected. I spoke to them. I had a higher dense usage originally, and sold my deal and said, here's what I'm doing. This is the product I'm doing, and it's evolved over time, but I worked with the neighbors, and I've kept them apprised. Diane, I've been in contact with, Acme Brick, Dallas ISD. I keep them apprised as I'm maneuvering. The orientation of the driveway, there was a lot of discussion about the safety, and what he said was correct. The reason that's lined up is because from a traffic safety standpoint, if you don't, you get a lot of conflicts of people coming from offset. And you know high school drivers. I mean, I think Diane said her mailbox has been taken out like twice by them. So there's a lot of safety concerns being in this proximity to new drivers. So there was a lot of thought put into that, and that's the reason for that exact alignment. Conceptually, again, this product for me is in the right location. I want something fresh, exciting, diverse. So to accomplish that, I use a variety of materials. I use different bricks. I use different textures, different colors. And it just presents something unique and youthful. I like the fact I really want to play to this streetscape and the young crowd across the street. I think it's the appropriate location for this type of product. And I'm really excited about this development. I've worked hard on it with staff. As John's mentioned, there's been a lot of back and forth. And that back and forth has, I've lost density, and every developer always cringes to do that. But there's a lot of things that I believe have benefited from those discussions and the push and the pull. And I think that, well, I know this is going to be a place that people really want to live, because I get calls all the time. I got emails that I thought maybe were people in opposition. Are these going to be for sale or for rent? Well, I said for sale. Oh, great, I want to buy one. Is there a waiting list? I have so much interest in this product because it is so unique. If you go out as a single individual, you got, okay, the house is too expensive for me. I got to pay taxes on it because I got to mow that yard that I'm probably not going to use. Or typically I have this apartment over here, but I don't want to live in a corridor with 50 neighbors who walk their dogs down the corridor. This is a housing product type that is in between that, and it's underserved. A lot of builders haven't focused in this market. And I've never run out of buyers. I go and I find unique properties and unique locations, and the buyer pool for this type of product is enormous. It's just difficult to serve because it's a difficult product that sometimes is outside the box. And for 20-some years, we've been very successful. Our properties have maintained property value. In fact, they've excelled and exceeded property value. A lot of the complaints we get are that we raise people's taxes, but it's kind of the end. Which side of the scale do you want? But I don't know. I wish I had an hour to talk about all the merits to this project. I'm excited about it. It's something really unique. I've done a lot of unique stuff. This one I think is going to be really, really cool. And with that, I think time is better served answering questions or concerns. And
Are there any questions from council?
Yeah, what is the average square foot and anticipated sales price of one of these units?
these are comprised of 2 and 3 bedroom. When you talk about square feet, what I found is people go in search typically of a room count. So I think the average square footage is like right around 1,000 square feet. But the room count is 2 and 3 bedrooms. And the 2, even though my primary market is singles, the reason for 2 rooms is everybody always needs an office nowadays because people are working from home. We have always found, we started to find early on that you always had to have a room even for an individual looking for a 1-bedroom for their office or for their hobby space. So that 2-bedroom is designed for typically one person. And then the 3-bedroom is a module that's designed for, okay, they have custody that they share with their spouse or their ex-spouse, that a kid comes over every so often, or they got a roommate or such. So we're primarily focused on room count. Now, as average sales price, we're looking at $300,000. That's kind of a magic level that you try to get above. It's kind of hard to get above, it's just psychologically $299.9. It's like going to the store and something's priced $699. So that is, believe it or not, the price point we're going to be looking for. And go out in the market today and try to find anything for $300,000. It doesn't exist. It's very difficult. Or if it does exist, it's 30 years old. It's got an electric bill that'll be $500 a month. These are going to be, the way we get that kind of money, that's a lot per square foot. That's $300 per square foot on the average. And the way we get that is we highly amenitize our units. We put the latest, greatest stainless steel appliances. We put the quartz countertops. We deck these things out because these people, they want something. They don't need big. They don't need 6 bedrooms or they don't need 3,000 square feet. But they do want the latest and greatest of finishes and things. And we customize them. We offer customization when we have buyers come in. There's all kinds of range of upgrades and options that they can put in these. And each buyer on average tends to put in our homes about $20,000 in upgrades because we are a custom builder. And they want to customize it. And they have the money to do it. And we enjoy doing that. We enjoy building for our customers and making their home unique to them. We'll get buyers, I want the blue one. I want that house right there because of the color. They're drawn to the uniqueness of it. It's something that the market is difficult to find. Sorry, was that too verbose of an answer?
I have a random question. What are the ceiling heights?
Ceiling heights downstairs are 9 foot. And then upstairs I use an 8-foot plate and everything pops up. Now I've got to keep room for my units in my attic. I foam my rafters because what I've found is the additional cost of the foam, keeping all that duct. For people to really, energy efficiency is another thing that's big now. So 9 foot is plenty high. What works is the number of windows. If you look at the fronts of those units, for instance, lots of glass. My duplex units, the reason that we had talked a lot with staff about that, I got a whole sidewall of windows. So you got a 9-foot ceiling, but what works is you got all this expansive glass. So you feel like you're open. The staircase creates volume in that unit. You go upstairs, you got all these popped up ceilings, some that go 10 feet, 11 feet up. So, but on the perimeter, I can keep my skin energy lossage down, and they're very, very efficient. All of our units actually, our electric bills are stunning for people because we put a lot of thought into energy. And we sell it. That's another way that we get a high sales price, and we sell how we are going to save that buyer money, and we're thinking about their costs.
Are there any other questions?
I like your passion for this. This is great. But I do have a couple of questions. You said that there would not be any additional vehicle counts on the road, but if you're adding 90 units, there's going to be additional cars on the road because most houses are going to have 2 people and they're going to have 2 cars.
Correct.
That's my first question. My second question, 68 duplex style. So will that be 34 duplexes?
Correct.
Or 60? Okay.
34 total. Yeah, and I misspoke. I'm sorry. Yeah, there will be traffic impact. I guess what I meant to say, it's going to be negligible. I think everybody was surprised at a higher unit count when I was up at close to 127, I think, is what that was run. It was very negligible. And it's because of the traffic count already generated by the high school. And these typically are single buyers. This is not a house where you're going to be able to fit 3 or 4 people. You typically have your singles, and it's a negligible impact to the traffic that's there. Now, the high school, if you didn't know, is actually plateaued in its enrollment, and they expect it to start coming back on its way down a little bit. But who's to say? You get to high school, you're going to have traffic.
Are any of the bedrooms downstairs?
They're not. Nope. And that's because with the footprint, that goes back to my concept of you put the master bedroom down, you got to bring with it the bath and the closet, and pretty soon you're expanding your footprint. And while that's desirable for people, that takes up a lot of land, and that price goes up. And then now, instead of trying to hit a $300,000 price point, I lose my amenities and all my green space, and I end up with a $500,000, $600,000 price point.
You will have an HOA?
Yes, absolutely, yes. The HOA will maintain all the grounds. The HOA will monitor and manage the parking. In fact, I've got an HOA, because of the communities that I do similar to this, Michelle Hernandez has managed my HOAs, and that is a very important component to how I make my project successful. They have to be managed, and they have to be, I want them to look good. And if I got all my grounds being maintained by somebody I trust that I know is going to crack the whip on that landscaper, when I drive by it, it represents, 5 years later I look at it, it still looks good. I got a tough HOA manager, and I know her by name because we have meetings every other week on different developments of mine, even that I'm still in and still over the HOA until I turn it over. She's spectacular. I've had her working with me. She doesn't work for me, but she's been my HOA manager in my developments for 20 years. We've kind of grown together. She's taught me.
Yeah, I share the concern about traffic. I do. I think your traffic study was done in June, so school was not in session. So, and like I said to Mr. Webb.
September.
Oh, September. Okay. That's good. So school was in. So that gives me a better feeling about that. But it is a problem now with it, just in those peak times, right? I can sit at that light for 15 minutes before I can turn left onto Swisher. So I don't, and I know that's a little bit out of your control at some level because it's a TxDOT issue, but it still is a potential problem. So.
Well, I'm not a traffic engineer.
Really?
Really. But I did drop my son off at Geyer High School for several years, and there's an apartment complex directly across from Geyer. And during school hours, very few people came out of that apartment complex.
Okay.
And what I expect is the people that choose to live there adjust their lifestyle to that traffic pattern. And I would expect that those people would too, because they don't want to sit at that light either.
Yeah. No, I try to time I do the exact same thing because I'm like, ooh, God, school's getting out or, drop off. So I will go alternate, way to avoid that. So
for me, traffic is potential buyers, so I don't have to market.
Yeah.
I got all these people seeing my product. That's why this streetscape is so important to me. I want to draw them in.
I think it is a beautiful development. I think your product is beautiful. Your passion, like Tina said, is clearly there. I think the quality appears to be excellent. Like I said, some of my hang-up is the traffic. So.
And I've done it. I'm a known quantity. I've done this for over 20 years, and I can give you neighborhood after neighborhood that has been successful. And the same fears, I've been through the fears of mosquitoes, you name it, I've heard it. And I would say everybody that's looked at what I've done, the fear of not knowing, I think it subsides, and they say, wow, that really turned out beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm proud of what I did.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, we're going to open it up for public hearing. And I believe we have a couple people that would like to speak. One more. Okay. First would be Sarah, is it Gazelle? Yeah. Please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Sarah Gazelle. I live at 2818 Goodnight Trail. Unfortunately, I'm nearby where this development is planned for, and my family, we do not support it. Councilor Pickens, I'm afraid you're feeling better about the traffic study isn't valid. It was conducted during the peak of remote learning and conducted at the peak of remote work. So there were no students going to the high school when they did that traffic study. And so it's just simply not reflective of what is happening every day now that the students are back at school. And what it would be complete out of the scope of that study, even if it had been taken place during school time. We have the Ashford Park community that's going in up to the north, which is a 4-stage development. Hickory Creek is putting in a lot of developments on the other side of Swisher, also on Park Ridge, and that will also impact that traffic signal right there. And I drive out to 35 every weekday to take my son to preschool, and like a lot of the community, we all divert down Meadowview to get to 35, and anytime there's an accident on I-35 East, that whole area there gets all backed up, and we have heard from our wonderful police department how unfortunately common that is right there. I'm very sympathetic to needing to develop these little pockets within the community, because I've lived in those little small developments. I live down in Pearland, Texas, outside of Houston, which really reminds me a lot of Corinth, and it's where I think Corinth is heading towards. It's another community split by a major artery. And so it's really important to develop those, but in this specific area with the high school, an area where you have lots of families who do walk up and down the streets, the marching band practices in the parking lot there, and when they're not there, you've got families who are taking their kids to ride bikes in those larger wheeled vehicles that they have that generally aren't quite as safe on the streets and everything else. We also have the concerns with the economic situation. I mean, next month the federal government is putting in a regulation that will say if you have a higher credit score, you're going to be paying a higher interest rate when you buy property. And so that's going to impact this community as well. And speaking solely anecdotally, at my preschool, I work with basically the target market for this development, which is those young people. I work at a preschool, and a lot of the people from a lot of students at different colleges, universities, come and work with us to provide before, after school care and just support in our school. And they all either have roommates or they are living with their parents. None of them are seeking to buy any homes right now. It's just simply not feasible for them. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Kenneth Byron. Please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Kenneth Bryan, 1648 Ash Lane. I just feel that the traffic is going to be too much on that street. Turning left onto 35, if you're going there at 3 o'clock, 3:15, you're going to be sitting at that red light 5, 6 cycles sometimes. To me, it's just not safe. Kids coming out, walking around, I just don't think that's appropriate. The traffic study, again, was done during COVID. A lot of traffic studies here in Corinth were done during COVID. So we need to reevaluate that and get that squared away first. And that's basically my point, just the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Christy Clark. She left. Christy Clark. Okay. Michael King. Please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Michael King, 2610 Zachary Drive, better known as the Lightning Rod Anti-Development, I think is what I was called. You guys might be a little surprised what I'm about to say. I'm not totally against this development. I'm not. I'm against the density of the development. Me and Dave sat back there and talked before this. This traffic study was done in August of 2021, doing the research last night. What was going on in August of 2021 with a lot of our schools? They were shut down for COVID. Lake Dallas was not, but a lot of schools. COVID was still prominent at that time period. You've heard me say this before. It's just my redneck way of saying things. We keep looking at the piece of the pie with the whipped cream when we talk about an agenda item. What I mean by that, when we talk about the traffic, we talk about the piece of the pie, the one piece that's got the whipped cream. We talk about the quarry, traffic from the quarry. Well, let's go from Lake Sharon to Swisher, southbound. You got the Capital Realty Management Group coming in there. You got the Oxford Boulevard Apartments going to be expanding. You got the Taylor Estates are going to be expanding. You've got Ashford on the north side of Lake Sharon, 450 homes or whatever, plus or minus. You got Amherst, that's only half full. Keep coming down south. Now you're going to have the quarry. Me and Dave talked, possibly phase 2. I think her name's Diane, where Ernie the Donkey's at, maybe in the future. You go on the south side of 2181 and Hickory Creek, but you got all those homes built when you're heading southbound on Park Ridge. Now you're starting to counter some of the residents heading northbound. When you take that whole piece of the pie versus just that one with the whipped cream on it, and you combine it all, the traffic is very dense. I sent an email to Mr. Campbell about the light, and his explanation was, he's going to look at the timing of the light. Timing light, yes, might help, but as much traffic as possibly going to be coming through there, I think you're going to be putting possibly have some issues. You've only got that one major quarry road coming out there. I know it looks like it's going to go through Acme Brick, but as he admitted, Acme Brick's not going to go anywhere for 50 years. You got the secondary road south down by Park Ridge, but all those cars, and you combine all the traffic from all those developments. Now, some say they're going to go down to Service Road 35. Some might. There's going to be a lot that's going to come straight down Park Ridge to get to Swisher to take a left turn to go up there where everybody shops, Albertsons, Gente's Pizza, all those shops up there. And you just talk about the developments. There's one to come in there at the corner on the southwest corner of 2181 and Park Ridge. You're going to put more commercial business in there. That's going to increase more traffic. What's going to be the long-term plan? I got 8 seconds here to fix that intersection. Not against the development. I just think we could do a little better job on the density. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would want to speak to this issue? Okay. Then I close the public hearing. I'd entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Opposed, same sign. It's unanimous. Item number 10, conduct a public hearing to consider testimony and act on an ordinance for a rezoning request by the City of Corinth to amend the zoning ordinance and the zoning map of the City of Corinth, each being a part of the Unified Development Code of the City. From Plan Development, number 1, PD-1, with a base zoning district of C-1 to C-2 commercial on approximately 10.9 acres located at the southwest corner of FM 2181 and Park Ridge Drive. Case number ZMA 23-001-PD-1 to C-2. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Director of Development Services, John Webb, will cover this item as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a little bit of a unique case, in fact, where the city actually partnered with the property owner. This is a site, as mentioned, at the southwest corner of 2181 in Park Ridge. The current zoning is PD1, which gives you an idea. It's the oldest PD established in the city, approximately a little over 10 acres. Property owner approached us, and actually one of the people representing the property for the owner and indicated that there is a concept plan attached to the PD, and the way it was written, it doesn't control the property. We had that confirmation with legal counsel, but the fact that this plan is attached to the PD, it has really hindered people's interest in it, and they look at that plan and they go, this is not really what is being built today. So that's one of the problems with this concept plan. Really kind of hurts the marketing. So we met with the owner's representative and said, there's an opportunity just to bring it back to a zoning category that would work for the city. So again, some of the surrounding uses, there is the bank and some professional offices to the north. To the east is the town of Hickory Creek. It'll be a developing retail commercial site right there at the hard corner. As you know, there's a developing single-family subdivision to the south. Also to the south is the vacant Culberson property, and to the west is the vacant Long Lake property. Future land use plan recommends corridor commercial. So the zoning change request is in compliance, with this. The city received one letter of support, no letters of opposition. You have a recommendation for approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as a staff recommendation for approval. Be glad to answer questions. And one thing I glossed over, the PD ties the development to 1984 zoning standards. So by bringing it to the straight C2 zoning district, it now would have to develop according to our current zoning standards. So I think that is one of the better assets to the city. So we are the applicant for the case, so we're glad to answer any questions. I don't know if the owner's here tonight, but this is a public hearing, Mayor.
Are there any questions, council?
Can you pull the map back up for me, please, sir? Okay.
Just to give a more full background, the person who called was Greg Johnson, and Greg used to office with me, and this is something he's been pestering me about for 2 years, saying he's the commercial real estate broker on this project. Said if you'd change this zoning, he said it doesn't need to be any kind of special zoning, just some zoning that people don't see and think they have to go through a zoning case to develop. I think I could get some people interested in the project. And after Scott Campbell came on board, I said, call Scott. And I think they had a meeting, and I appreciate, John, you and Scott meeting with them. And it sounds like the staff recommends what he was proposing, and it may free up some development on this parcel.
Any other questions?
I just had a quick question. I know that in some of the PDs, we're going to have prohibited uses, or do you foresee that happening here?
The straight C2, I think, because it does not allow automotive uses by right. So if somebody wanted to come in with a drive-through or some type of automotive related use, they'd have to ask your permission through the SUP process. So they're not granted, I believe, any zoning entitlements today that would create any problems by going to the straight C2 district.
Okay, because I'm more like looking at, we don't need any more vape shops.
Vape shops are allowed by right in any commercial district right now in the city.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, I'll open this up for public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this issue? Please state your name and your address, please, for the record.
Earlene Jackson, 2107 Bowie Lane, Corinth, Texas. I was here the year we had the home charter rule meeting. And at that meeting, at the time, Flower Mound was turned upside down. They didn't have electricity over there. They didn't have the streets, so they didn't have enough. The traffic was bogged up. They didn't have enough traffic. They didn't have enough, they needed more infrastructure for all of that traffic they had going on over there. I foresee that happening here in the near future. And I would say that we really should need to look heavily at infrastructure. Look at the infrastructure, because we are going to end up like Flower Mound was and that was in the early 90s, probably. After the 90s somewhere. I was in that homeroom charter meeting, and one of the things that the council said at that time, we are not going to have an infrastructure problem. And I knew then that wasn't going to be true, because I know we had not even built out. We hadn't even begun to build out at that time. So I know that that's something if we're going to keep on putting this many different developments in here and housing and all of that, there needs to be a hard look at the infrastructure. What are you going to do with that traffic? Because that traffic is going to build up sooner or later. And I can foresee us. I don't know if any of you were around when they had that home rule charter meeting, but Flower Mound was in a pickle. And I just don't want to see us go there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I close the public hearing. I entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's unanimous. Item number 11, consider an act on the interlocal agreement between the City of Corinth and the Town of Highland Park to piggyback off the pavement rejuvenation contract for 4 years, commencing on April 20th, 2023. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Director of Public Works, Glenn Barker, will cover this item and answer any questions that you have.
So this is an ILA with Highland Park to utilize their pavement doctor contract. Why do we want to use a pavement doctor? They're about 10 cents cheaper than the traditional asphalt sealing. Resident impact will also be reduced. It's only a 4-hour dry time versus a 24-hour. So all the asphalt roads, when they get done, you got to stay off them for 24 hours, or cars need to be detailed if you drive on it. It's a big mess, but this is 4 hours, and that would be why we want to use that. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's unanimous. Item 12, consider an act on a contract with Pavement Doctor for the sealing of asphalt in the amount not to exceed $155,000 and authorize the city manager to execute necessary documents. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is related to the item you just approved, and we'll let Glenn cover that one as well.
So this is part of the budget already. We actually approved the budget to do this work. It's Public Work Area Maintenance Zone 3, which is the pink on the screen. It has 5.6 miles of asphalt roads, and by doing this work, it's $5.24 per foot versus $25 if we let the roads continue to deteriorate and we have to mill and overlay.
Is that per square foot or linear foot of normal size wood?
524 is linear foot. The 10 cents above is actually square foot.
Okay. Is there any questions? Okay. Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Move we approve as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. It's unanimous. Consider and authorize amending Section 4.2, Annual, Regular, and Special Meeting in the EDC, amended and restated bylaws. Mr. Campbell.
Mayor, we're going to let Elise Back, our Director of Economic Development, cover this.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I actually handed out a new version of the bylaws to you. So due to all of the work and initiatives and projects that are underway, at the April 3rd EDC board meeting, the board recommended that we amend Section 4.2 regarding meetings of the EDC from bi-monthly to monthly, go back to monthly. So staff recommends that Council approve the resolution to Section 4.2 of the amended and restated bylaws to reflect that change from bi-monthly meetings to monthly.
Are there any questions from Council? Okay. Thank you. Entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve as presented.
Can we make sure that includes approval of the resolution, please?
With approval of the resolution.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes. Why does it have the word thereafter? Shouldn't it be the first Monday of each month instead of there? I mean, I don't understand what that's trying to say.
So I can clarify that the intent was for them to meet every Monday, and so the sentence starts out they're going to meet the first Monday of January for their annual meeting, and then they're going to meet every Monday of each month thereafter. Yes, ma'am.
And
this is the only change.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
okay. Any other question? Okay. Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay. It's unanimous. Item 14, consider an act on approval of the third amended unimproved property contract with Wolverine Interest for the purchase of 4.542 acres for a mixed-use development. Mr. Campbell.
Mayor, Elise Back will present this item and answer any questions.
So the property that Wolverine is going to be developing their mixed-use development has decreased slightly, and the reason is due to the North Corinth Street moving over a little bit eastward. So their acreage has decreased. So the third amendment is reflecting the new acreage and the new price corresponding to that acreage, as well as we've added an amendment to the assignment. So if the buyer wants to assign the contract to a new entity, they're going to have to get prior consent from council. And if they are going to assign it to that entity, the buyer has to be a principal of that entity. And lastly, that entity will have to assume all the obligations that are under the contract, if that makes sense. So those three things: acreage, new price, and the assignment. So staff recommends that council approve the contract as presented.
Are there any questions from council? Okay. Entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's unanimous. Council comment and future agenda items. The purpose of this section is to allow each council member the opportunity to provide general updates and or comments to fellow council members, the public, and or staff on any issues or future events. Also, in accordance with Section 30.085 of the Code of Ordinances, at this time, any council member may direct that an item be added as a business item to any future agenda. Mr. Burke?
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Garber?
Yes, two things. I'd like to request a workshop as discussed in our initial citizen comment over ordinance number 22-01-20-01. And I'd also like to request a discussion about the allowed uses in the commercial district.
Okay. Mr. Holdsworth?
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Ms. Henderson? Ms. Pickens?
Nothing, thanks.
You mean you're not going to announce it that it's your birthday today?
Well, I think everybody should know that by now.
Happy birthday, Kelly. Sorry for stealing your thunder, but much love.
Right.
Maybe we'll start at that end next time.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
Mr. Campbell?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we're adjourned.